All right. Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be working on talking about slope. All right. And when we talk about slope, that's also known as the rate of change. You may be like, rate of change? What? Yep. You probably have heard of it in 8th grade, right? It's your change in y over your change in x. Okay. So we're going to first start off looking at this table, right? And we're going to look at example 1 and see if we can find our rate of change or our slope. Just as a recap, right? We've been talking about linear functions, arithmetic sequences. It all goes together. When we talk about arithmetic sequences like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. All right, this is said to be arithmetic, right? Because we are increasing from one term to the next by adding 1, right? That 1 we call our difference when we're dealing with arithmetic sequences. But when we talk about functions, right? When we say it's a linear function, we actually call the difference the slope, all right? So this all goes together. Slope, arithmetic sequence, common difference. So this slope would be 1. All right, so we're going to look more into it. Maybe that helps, right? Let's say we look at this pattern, right? Our change in y, looks like we're adding 5 each time. Of course, over here, we're adding 1. Now, we said that to find the slope, we do our change in y divided by our change in x up here, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, our slope is 5 divided by 1. And if you plug that in your calculator, that means this slope is 5. All right, and we're going to do the same thing for example 2. Okay, this shouldn't be 6. It should be 6.23, right? I'm sorry, 25 rather. And notice that we have time and then total cost. Don't be thrown off by that. The top is our x, the bottom is our y. Okay, so what happens? Well, we increase from one to the next by adding 2. Okay, same thing with the x. We increase from one to the other by adding 1. So when we look for our slope, which is also like the difference, right? Is basically 2, but we're going to say 2 divided by 1, which is 2. And we divide by the 1 to make sure that it's not increasing by anything else. Sometimes it'll increase by something other than 1. So our slope is 2. All right. Now, I want you to take a moment and try this last table. Okay. All right, hopefully you've had some time to kind of work on this. Notice here that there's no change of the y. And the change of the x seems to be increasing by 2. So this is 0 divided by 2. 0 divided by 2, if you plugged it in your calculator, you should have gotten 0. And that's the slope. All right. We're going to handle 2 points similarly to the way that we handled the table. We're going to put these 2 points into a table, right? So we're going to make a table of x, y values. Okay? And remember points, x, y. So this is 4, 2. All right? And then this point is 8, 10. Right? So we have our points in the table. All right, from here, what we're going to do is look at our change in x, right? And our change in y. The change in y it looks like we added 8. Change in x looks like we added 4. So that's 8 over 4, which is 2. So that's the slope. We're going to do the same thing for this next example, right? We got our xy. And then 3, 4. So that's 3, 4, 6, 2. Now we look for our change in y. It looks like we went down 2. So that's negative 2. And then the x, looks like we went up 3. So then our slope is the change in x, which was negative 2, divided by our change in y, which was negative 2, and our change in x, which was positive 3. And look at that. Our slope is negative 2 over 3. No, we don't need to write this in decimal form. We're going to keep it as a fraction. All right. Now I want you to try this last example for 2 points. All right, when we look here, we're going to put this in a table, right? We got 16, 6, right? Negative 28. So when we go from 16 to negative 20, isn't that a major drop? All right, it looks like it is a drop. Is that negative 36, right? And then there's an increase in y by just 2. So our slope is 2 over negative 36, which simplifies to negative 1 over 18. And that's our slope, actually. And now that we have a graph, we're going to do the same thing. All right, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose our points on the graph, which it looks like they're already given to you. 1, 2, yep. So what we're going to do is make a table. All right, choose our points and then make a table. When you make the table of x, y, right, the first point here is negative 1, 0. So that's what we're going to write here, negative 1, 0. The second point is 0, 1, right? So we're going to write 0, 1, and the last point is 2, 3. Well, where do we go from here? Remember, slope is change in y over change in x, right? So it's very similar to our arithmetic sequence. We just add 1 here. Here we are adding 2. And you may say, hold on, miss, we're not adding by the same thing here. You said when it's the same, right? Then it's arithmetic, or then we know we're talking about a linear function. Well, the story's not over. Let's check in the change in x. This change in x is plus 1. This change in x is plus 2. Okay? So what I want to do before we count this out is let's go ahead and look at both. 1 divided by 1, right? So basically this 1 divided by this 1 is 1. And also this 2 divided by this 2 is also 1. So it actually works because they both give us the same number. That was a close call. But as long as it comes out to be 1 each one, then it's okay. So the slope for this graph is actually 1. All right, and then we can do this next graph, right? We got x, y, and we have 1, 2, 3 points. Let's go ahead and write those in. So that's 0, 3, 3, 1, and then 4.5, right? When we go from 0 to 3, we add 3, right? But when we go from 3 to 4.5, we end up actually adding 1.5. 3 to 1 is minus 2, and 1 to 0 is minus 1. Remember, we're not going to give up yet. We're going to check this thing, okay? So the change in y is for the first point here. That's negative 2 over 3. And then for the second, it's negative 1 over 1.5. That's a little funky because we still can't tell if it's equal, but it should be. So let's plug it in the calculator. All right, take out your calculator. And what I want you to do is to check and see if these both give us the same decimal, which should be negative 0.666 repeating, right? All right, and I've checked. It is the same. So, whoop, there it is. All right, they are equal. All right, now I want you to try this last example. Now, I do know that these are, close together. So I'm going to erase this. And I want you to try this third example here. All right. So this should have been 2, 0. I hope I'm writing this in order. All right. 0, negative 1, and negative 6, negative 4. All right. When we increase, right? No, we're actually decreasing. Actually, I wrote this out of order. That's what happened. So I do apologize. Let's do this again. Okay, X, Y. All right, and we're going to go, let's start with negative 6, negative 4. And then 0, negative 1. And then let's do 2, 0. All right, and if you did a little different, so maybe 2, 0 first, and then 0, negative 1, and then negative 6, negative 4, that's okay. Either way, here we're adding 3. Here we're adding 6. Okay? Here we're adding 1, and here we're adding 2. With this, we're going to do 3 over 6, and then we're going to check to see if it matches 1 over 2. 3 over 6 equals 1 over 2. Are these the same? Yep. We plug it in the calculator, they're both going to give us 0.5. All right, so yes, they are the same. So our slope here is 1 over 2. All right. So that's it, guys. What I want you to do now is to go through the practice worksheet, complete it, and turn it in because it's due at the end of class.